Welcome to Fluent Career English. Today we are going to practice an important professional communication skill. Our topic today is how to agree and disagree politely in English. This lesson is designed for A2, B1 English learners who want to improve their workplace communication and speak more confidently in professional situations. In many workplaces, people discuss ideas, make decisions, and share opinions during meetings and team conversations. Sometimes you will agree with your coworkers, and sometimes you may have a different opinion. However, professional communication requires expressing agreement and disagreement politely. Speaking respectfully helps teams collaborate, solve problems, and maintain positive relationships. In today's lesson, you will learn how to agree politely, how to disagree respectfully, and how to explain your opinions clearly in workplace discussions. You will practice conversations, sentence patterns, vocabulary, and speaking exercises. When you see the word repeat, please say the sentence out loud so you can practice your speaking. Let's begin with a simple workplace conversation. Sophia, imagine your team is discussing a new project plan. A coworker suggests an idea that you like. What would you say?
I would express my agreement and explain why I like the idea.
That is a great approach.
Positive feedback helps coworkers feel supported.
Exactly. Let's practice expressing agreement. I completely agree with your suggestion. I completely agree with your suggestion. I think this idea could help our team work more efficiently. I think this idea could help our team work more efficiently. Your suggestion makes a lot of sense for this project. Your suggestion makes a lot of sense for this project. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's learn another way to agree politely. Professionals often explain their reasoning when agreeing with someone. Let's listen to another conversation. Sophia, imagine a coworker suggests improving communication during a project. How would you respond?
I would agree and explain why communication is important.
That is a professional response.
Clear communication helps teams avoid misunderstandings.
Excellent. Let's practice expressing that idea. I agree with your suggestion because clear communication helps teams collaborate effectively. I agree with your suggestion because clear communication helps teams collaborate effectively. This approach could improve our workflow and project organization. This approach could improve our workflow and project organization. Therefore, I support this idea. Therefore, I support this idea. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's talk about another important skill, disagreeing politely. Disagreeing respectfully is an important part of professional communication. Instead of rejecting ideas directly, professionals usually express their perspective calmly and respectfully. Let's practice a workplace scenario. Sophia, imagine a coworker suggests a solution that you believe may not work well. What would you say?
I would acknowledge their idea and explain my concern politely.
That is an excellent strategy.
Respectful communication helps maintain teamwork.
Exactly. Let's practice expressing polite disagreement. I understand your perspective. However, I would like to suggest another approach. I understand your perspective. However, I would like to suggest another approach. This alternative idea might help us complete the project more efficiently. This alternative idea might help us complete the project more efficiently. I would appreciate hearing the team's thoughts about this suggestion. I would appreciate hearing the team's thoughts about this suggestion. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's learn some useful vocabulary for discussing ideas and opinions. Opinion. An opinion is what someone thinks about a topic. In my opinion, improving communication will help our team work more effectively. In my opinion, improving communication will help our team work more effectively. Perspective. Perspective means a point of view. I understand your perspective, and I would like to share my idea as well. I understand your perspective, and I would like to share my idea as well. Suggestion. A suggestion is an idea for improvement. I would like to share a suggestion that might help our project succeed. I would like to share a suggestion that might help our project succeed. Excellent. Now let's practice another workplace conversation. Sophia, imagine your team is discussing how to organize project tasks. A coworker suggests a new schedule. What would you say if you agree with the idea?
I would explain why the schedule is helpful.
That is a great response.
It is important to show appreciation for good ideas.
Exactly. Let's practice expressing that response. I think this schedule is a great idea. I think this schedule is a great idea. It could help our team stay organized and meet our deadlines. It could help our team stay organized and meet our deadlines. Thank you for sharing this suggestion with the team. Thank you for sharing this suggestion with the team. Excellent speaking practice. Now it is your turn to practice speaking. Imagine you are in a meeting with your coworkers. Someone shares an idea that you like. How would you express agreement politely? You can start like this. I agree with your suggestion because it could improve our project results. I agree with your suggestion because it could improve our project results. This idea may help our team collaborate more effectively. This idea may help our team collaborate more effectively. Excellent. Now let's discuss a common mistake when disagreeing. Some people disagree too directly. For example, someone might say this: "Your idea will not work." This statement may sound rude or dismissive. A more professional response shows respect. I understand your idea. However, I think we might consider another solution. I understand your idea. However, I think we might consider another solution. This alternative approach may help us achieve better results. This alternative approach may help us achieve better results. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's practice a shadowing round. Listen carefully and repeat the sentences naturally. Expressing agreement politely helps build positive professional relationships. Expressing agreement politely helps build positive professional relationships.
Respectful disagreement allows teams to discuss different ideas. Respectful disagreement allows teams to discuss different ideas.
Sharing perspectives can help teams find better solutions. Sharing perspectives can help teams find better solutions.
Therefore, polite communication improves teamwork and collaboration. Therefore, polite communication improves teamwork and collaboration.
Excellent speaking practice. Now let's continue the conversation. Sophia, why is respectful disagreement important in professional environments?
Because different opinions can lead to better ideas.
That is correct.
When people discuss ideas respectfully, teams can make better decisions.
Excellent explanation. Let's practice expressing that idea. Respectful disagreement helps teams explore different perspectives. Respectful disagreement helps teams explore different perspectives. Discussing ideas openly can improve decision-making. Discussing ideas openly can improve decision-making. Therefore, polite communication is essential for teamwork. Therefore, polite communication is essential for teamwork. Excellent. Let's continue practicing how to agree and disagree politely in English. In this section, we will focus on workplace meetings, sharing opinions, and responding to different ideas respectfully. In many professional environments, coworkers discuss plans, solve problems, and evaluate ideas together. During these discussions, people often have different opinions. The goal is not to win an argument. The goal is to communicate clearly and find the best solution for the team. Let's begin with a workplace scenario. Sophia, imagine your team is discussing how to organize tasks for a new project. A coworker suggests completing the project in 2 phases. What would you say if you agree with the idea?
I would express my agreement and explain why the idea is helpful.
That is an excellent response.
Explaining the reason shows that I understand the suggestion.
Exactly. Let's practice expressing that response. I think your idea makes a lot of sense for this project. I think your idea makes a lot of sense for this project. Dividing the work into 2 phases could help our team stay organized. Dividing the work into 2 phases could help our team stay organized. This approach may improve our project efficiency. This approach may improve our project efficiency. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's practice another situation. Sometimes you may partially agree with a coworker's idea. Sophia, imagine your coworker suggests finishing a project very quickly. You agree that speed is important, but you are concerned about quality. What would you say?
I would acknowledge their idea and explain my concern politely.
That is a professional strategy.
It allows the conversation to remain respectful.
Excellent explanation. Let's practice expressing that response. I agree that completing the project quickly is important. I agree that completing the project quickly is important. However, we should also ensure the quality of the final results. However, we should also ensure the quality of the final results. Perhaps we can balance efficiency and careful review. Perhaps we can balance efficiency and careful review. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's practice another workplace scenario. Imagine a coworker suggests a plan that you strongly disagree with. In professional environments, it is important to remain respectful. Sophia, how would you respond?
I would acknowledge their idea and explain my perspective calmly.
That is the correct approach.
Respectful communication helps teams maintain positive relationships.
Exactly. Let's practice expressing polite disagreement. I understand your idea, however, I see the situation a little differently. I understand your idea, however, I see the situation a little differently. I believe another approach may help us achieve better results. I believe another approach may help us achieve better results. Perhaps we can consider an alternative solution together. Perhaps we can consider an alternative solution together. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's learn a few additional phrases that professionals often use during discussions. That is an interesting perspective. That is an interesting perspective. I appreciate your suggestion. I appreciate your suggestion. I would like to add another idea to the discussion. I would like to add another idea to the discussion. Excellent. Now let's practice a longer conversation. Sophia, imagine your team is discussing how to improve communication during a project. What idea might you share?
I might suggest having short weekly meetings.
That sounds like a useful idea.
Weekly meetings could help the team share updates more easily.
Excellent explanation. Let's practice expressing that idea. I would like to suggest having short weekly meetings for project updates. I would like to suggest having short weekly meetings for project updates. This could help the team communicate more effectively. This could help the team communicate more effectively. Regular discussions may also help prevent misunderstandings. Regular discussions may also help prevent misunderstandings. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's discuss a common mistake when expressing disagreement. Sometimes people interrupt others or reject ideas immediately. For example, someone might say this: "That idea is wrong." This statement sounds disrespectful and may create conflict. A better response sounds more professional. "I understand your idea, however, I think we should consider another option." I understand your idea, however, I think we should consider another option. This alternative may help the team achieve better results. This alternative may help the team achieve better results. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's practice another shadowing round. Listen carefully and repeat the sentences naturally. Agreeing politely helps build positive professional relationships. Agreeing politely helps build positive professional relationships.
Respectful disagreement allows teams to explore different ideas. Respectful disagreement allows teams to explore different ideas.
Sharing perspectives helps teams find better solutions. Sharing perspectives helps teams find better solutions.
Therefore, respectful communication improves teamwork. Therefore, respectful communication improves teamwork.
Excellent speaking practice. Now let's continue the conversation. Sophia, why do you think listening is important during workplace discussions?
Because listening helps people understand different perspectives.
That is correct.
When coworkers listen carefully, discussions become more productive.
Excellent explanation. Let's practice expressing that idea. Listening carefully helps coworkers understand each other's ideas. Listening carefully helps coworkers understand each other's ideas. Understanding different perspectives can improve teamwork. Understanding different perspectives can improve teamwork. Therefore, listening is an important communication skill. Therefore, listening is an important communication skill. Excellent. In this final section, we will practice longer conversations about agreeing and disagreeing politely in professional situations. You will learn how to respond during meetings, how to manage disagreements respectfully, and how to explain your ideas clearly. In many workplaces, teams must make decisions together. During these discussions, different opinions are normal. Professional communication allows people to share ideas while maintaining respect and collaboration. Let's begin with a workplace conversation. Sophia, imagine your team is discussing a strategy for completing a project. One coworker suggests focusing on speed, while another suggests focusing on detailed review. What would you say?
I would explain that both ideas are important.
That is a thoughtful response.
A balanced approach can help the team achieve good results.
Excellent explanation. Let's practice expressing that idea. I think both perspectives are valuable for this project. I think both perspectives are valuable for this project. Completing tasks efficiently is important. However, quality is also essential. Completing tasks efficiently is important. However, quality is also essential. Perhaps we can find a balance between speed and careful review. Perhaps we can find a balance between speed and careful review. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's practice another workplace situation. Imagine a coworker proposes a plan that may create additional work for the team. Sophia, how would you express your concern politely?
I would acknowledge the idea and explain my concern clearly.
That is a professional approach.
Respectful communication helps maintain a positive team environment.
Exactly. Let's practice expressing that response. I understand your idea, and I appreciate your suggestion. I understand your idea, and I appreciate your suggestion. However, I am concerned that this plan may increase our workload significantly. However, I am concerned that this plan may increase our workload significantly. Perhaps we could explore a simpler approach. Perhaps we could explore a simpler approach. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's practice another scenario. Sometimes coworkers may strongly support their own ideas. In this situation, it is helpful to respond calmly and respectfully. Sophia, imagine a coworker insists that their idea is the best solution. What would you say?
I would listen carefully and then share my perspective.
That is a strong communication strategy.
Listening helps create a respectful discussion.
Excellent. Let's practice expressing that response. I understand your point of view, and I appreciate your explanation. I understand your point of view, and I appreciate your explanation. I would like to share another idea that may also help our team. I would like to share another idea that may also help our team. Perhaps we can compare both approaches and choose the best solution. Perhaps we can compare both approaches and choose the best solution. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's practice another useful skill, building agreement within a team. Sometimes a professional helps connect different ideas and guide the discussion toward a solution. Sophia, imagine your team has several different ideas. What would you say to help the group move forward?
I would summarize the ideas and suggest a plan.
That is excellent teamwork.
Clear communication helps the team make decisions.
Exactly. Let's practice expressing that response. We have heard several useful ideas during this discussion. We have heard several useful ideas during this discussion. Perhaps we can combine some of these suggestions into a final plan. Perhaps we can combine some of these suggestions into a final plan. This approach may help our team achieve the best results. This approach may help our team achieve the best results. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's discuss another common mistake when disagreeing in professional conversations. Some people become emotional or speak too directly. For example, someone might say this: "That idea is terrible." This response sounds unprofessional and may damage relationships. A better response remains respectful. I understand your suggestion. However, I believe another approach may work better. I understand your suggestion. However, I believe another approach may work better. Let's explore a few alternatives together. Let's explore a few alternatives together. Excellent speaking practice. Now let's practice a longer shadowing round. Listen carefully and repeat the sentences naturally. Agreeing politely helps teams build trust and cooperation. Agreeing politely helps teams build trust and cooperation.
Respectful disagreement allows people to share different perspectives. Respectful disagreement allows people to share different perspectives.
Open discussions can lead to better solutions and stronger teamwork. Open discussions can lead to better solutions and stronger teamwork.
Therefore, professional communication is essential in the workplace. Therefore, professional communication is essential in the workplace.
Excellent speaking practice. Now let's have one final conversation. Sophia, why is it important to communicate politely when discussing different opinions?
Because respectful communication helps people feel comfortable sharing ideas.
That is correct.
When people feel respected, teamwork becomes stronger and more productive.
Excellent explanation. Let's practice expressing that idea. Polite communication helps coworkers share ideas openly. Polite communication helps coworkers share ideas openly. Respectful discussions allow teams to solve problems more effectively. Respectful discussions allow teams to solve problems more effectively. Therefore, professionalism is essential when expressing agreement or disagreement. Therefore, professionalism is essential when expressing agreement or disagreement. Excellent. Now it is time for the final speaking challenge. Imagine you are in a team meeting discussing a project plan. A coworker shares an idea that you partly agree with but also want to improve. Listen to this example answer. I think your idea has several strong points. I think your idea has several strong points. However, I would also like to suggest a small adjustment that may improve the plan. However, I would also like to suggest a small adjustment that may improve the plan. Perhaps we can combine both ideas to achieve better results. Perhaps we can combine both ideas to achieve better results. Now it is your turn. Imagine you are responding to a coworker's idea during a meeting. Express your agreement or disagreement politely and explain your perspective. Take a moment and say your answer out loud. Excellent work. Today you practiced how to agree politely, disagree respectfully, and explain your opinions clearly in professional conversations. These communication skills are extremely valuable for teamwork, meetings, and leadership. The more you practice these conversations, the more confident you will become when speaking English in professional environments. Thank you for learning with us on Fluent Career English. Keep practicing, keep improving, and keep building your confidence in English for your career.